Well, welcome everyone. I am delighted to uh, see you and to interact with you once again on CBM Calling. These have become really special moments in my day. Every afternoon at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, we are welcoming our friends and people on Facebook Live to join us and learn a little bit more about what God is doing in the world. Today's actually a special CBM Calling because it's our 30th one. My team at CBM has done an amazing job in creating this phenomenal content that we're able to share with our friends through Facebook Live. Now, if you think this is awesome, I think I want you all to know that on Sunday, this coming Sunday, we are having a very special event called Solidarity Sunday. It's a global time of interaction as we join together with our partners around the world and with Canadian churches in prayer and in reflection about what God is doing in our world during the COVID-19 crisis. I am also happy to invite you to interact with my guest and I throughout this conversation through Facebook Live. Just send us a note. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're listening to us from, and we'll be happy to acknowledge you if we can. Please join me today in welcoming Julia Bowering. Since November 16, Julia has taken on an extremely vital role within our organization at CBM as our team lead for international programs. Uh, I think my very first comment to you as a new employee on the 16th, Julia, was sorry to say this, but you can't come to work because that was the day that we had to tell our staff that we were going into quarantine. So I'm not 100% sure you actually have showed up at the office yet. I'm pretty sure you've had to stay home for the last time, but I am so glad to welcome you, Julia. Before we talk about what our global partners are doing and as they confront the COVID-19 crisis, tell me a little bit about yourself, Julia.
Hi, Terry. So I grew up in Southern Ontario, not too far from here, and but my involvement in missions through my church as a teenager, and then later on through my studies, took me around the world and gave me a love for different countries and being part of the global church. So my background is actually in international development and theology, and for the past about 8 years almost, I've been working as a pastor in Vancouver and in Oakville. So before joining CBM. So it's a little bit about me.
Oh my gosh, pastor, student of international development, practitioner. I know that you worked in Uganda for a time. How do all of these roles converge in your job at CBM?
Sure. Well, CBM's all about integral mission, and we describe that as sharing the gospel through both word and deed. So it's not just what we preach or speak about, but it's also the way that we engage with our communities around the world. So in my new role, overseeing international programs at CBM, I'll draw on my international development background and experience because we want to have robust, healthy, life-giving development work happening around the world with our partners. But also as a Jesus follower and as Christians together, we can't separate that from what it means to be part of the mission of God, part of Shalom and the inbreaking kingdom. And so our partnerships and our programs reflect that integration of theology and action and integral mission. So it's really exciting for me. And sometimes I get to
Wow.
preach too. So it's kind
Hey,
of fun
go for it.
doing a
Yeah,
lot
I got
together.
like the preacher in you. Keep going.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I have to say, I absolutely resonate with what you said. This is the best place for me to work where I can live out my conviction that God is healing a broken world through word and deed. And integral mission is right at the very heart of everything we do. Over the last 3 months, we have just been overwhelmed, haven't we, by the unabated spread of COVID-19 around the world, starting in Wuhan, China, a city that I know well and where I visited many times. But it's had a devastating impact on people's health, on people's livelihood, on economic development, on social welfare. This is no time for the faint of heart to be involved in international development and the program work that you're involved in. Are you and your team coping okay?
We're we're hanging in there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I started, I think 6.5 weeks ago now. So it's been a huge learning curve for sure. And we're busy as we try and come alongside our partners and support them as well, because we're all experiencing this massive change together and experiencing it in different ways. But so yeah, so we're busy, but we're also really encouraged. Patricia, one of our program officers, was just sharing a story yesterday about one of our partners that just pivoted really fast. They had plans and they were able to shift and change and adapt to the needs that are emerging out of this crisis. And that's just so encouraging to see. So we're busy, but we're also encouraged and inspired by the partners we're working with.
You've got a great team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Before I ask you my next question, I want to give a little shout out to some of the people that are watching this. Estella Ing is watching once again, and I know Estella's been really faithful in watching our Facebook Live CBM Calling. Our colleagues Laura Lee and Daryl Buston, and our good pal Dennis Shearman in Calgary. Juliet, can you give me some examples of how our global partners are actually addressing this pandemic and how they're working with some of the most vulnerable right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our partners, KPM in the Philippines, and I think you might be hearing a little bit more about them tomorrow, but they responded really quickly. There's a hospital in their city that had a number of frontline workers who couldn't return home at the end of the day because of travel restrictions. And so they reached out to us quickly saying, is there any way that we can provide some relief to our partner or to these frontline workers? And so we've been able to provide through and alongside our partners food for 90 frontline workers in this hospital. Another thing that they're doing is, and thing that they have been doing is working with peace building initiatives between Muslim and Christian communities. And so one of their relief efforts now is providing food for needy pastors, but also needy Muslim faith leaders. And again, that's just an example of how our faith is lived out, and it kind of carries on the spirit of their activities through relief, which has been neat to see. We're working in India with Alampang Baptist Church. They've reached out to for support in assisting some very needy families with food. And so I think I have the number here. They've been providing food relief to 100 vulnerable families in their community. Again, it's happening through the local church, which is really neat to see. We have some alumni of ABTS, our partner in Lebanon, and they have been working in North Lebanon and also in Morocco, again, providing masked personal protective equipment and food to vulnerable families in their communities and areas as an extension of what they've been learning and training in through their theological education. And then finally, an example that's just really encouraged us and our team comes from El Salvador. And this is a fairly new partner. We partner with the Baptist Association of El Salvador. And they, like all of our partners, had a plan for this year and a set plan for what they were going to do. And it was an important plan for them as an organization in terms of their own growth and development. And yet COVID-19 happened, and they were able to shift gears really quickly and say, actually, the priorities right now have changed. And as disappointing as it is to let go of some of our plans, we know that this is the way God's calling us to respond right now. And so they have been working with a network of 35 churches, which I just think in our Canadian context, imagine getting 35 churches together like that to do a combined relief effort. It's amazing. So they've been distributing food to vulnerable families through these churches, and it's been really neat to see.
It's incredible.
That's just a handful.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I think you could have kept going. There's so many incredible things that are happening. Julia, yesterday you and I both received an email. I saw your name was copied on it as well, and it just broke my heart about how some of our Baptist partners in South Sudan have been incredibly afflicted during this pandemic. Two pastors who were arrested and they were beaten.
Yeah.
And all they had done separately was to go into a church alone and pray. And the question that kind of came to my head at that moment is, how can we be confident that when we work with global partners, particularly in the global south, how can we be confident that our partners are resilient when they face challenging times? I don't know. What would you say that helps us feel that they have that resilience to face up to these challenges?
Yeah, it's hard to wrap, I think, hard to wrap our heads around a little bit. But one of the most important things that we do, one of our goals when we support a project with any of our partners, is not only that that project is assisting a need in a community and helping vulnerable, but also that it's strengthening our partner and in some way. And so we work with these amazing partners with knowledge and skills and relationships within their context that make them the best people to reach and serve that community. But one of the things we can offer as Canadian partners is training, is workshops, equipping in leadership development, project management, financial management, theology, how do we bring these things together, integral mission. And so through that training and equipping, we actually help expand the capacity of our partner and hopefully resilience in face of some of these incredible challenges that they're facing.
It's so true. I know years ago when my wife and I joined CBM, it was because of this organization's commitment to capacity building. Specifically for me at the time, because of theological education. But then I saw how capacity building worked its way throughout the entire partner network and down to the very grassroots, and helping local churches, pastors and evangelists, but lay women and teens understand how God was can use them in their own communities. So that understanding of the opportunity for capacity building is so vital. Now, before we go on, you've got some friends out there, Julia. Kathleen Wilson says, it's great to see you, Julia.
Oh, hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen. I don't know who you are, but you must like Julia. You must be a good person.
Oh, Kathleen's wonderful.
Oh, there you go. And Bruno Susi says, thanks for all you're doing, Julia. And another regular of our CBM Calling is Adil Aslam. And he has watched our show very regularly from Bangkok, Thailand. And we send our greetings to you, Adil, and also assure you of our prayers. I want to give 15 seconds of our conversation to our buddy CP Raju in India, who's going to tell us something about what's going to happen on Sunday.
You can join us on Solidarity Sunday on 3rd May at 4 Eastern Standard Time.
Julia, I have one final question for you. I want you to go back to that time when you were a pastor in Vancouver or in Oakville. Knowing what we are facing today, globally, as well as in our own communities, what would you want your church members to know? And what would you want them to do to help heal a broken world?
I think I'd want them to know that they are deeply and beautifully a part of the global church, and not just when we're feeling strong and like we've got it together and we have things to offer and give, but also when we're feeling weak and like we're a little bit in a bit of a mess ourselves and not sure how to step forward. We are always, as we are in Christ, integrated into this global family, and we're able to give and participate through prayer, through finances, through so many different ways, through relationship, not because we are strong, but because we're in Christ, and in Christ we have all that we need. So I think that's what I'd want to say.
It's amazing. Thank you, Julia. I hear the heart of a pastor in saying that. Wow. Tomorrow, as you mentioned, our colleague John Chan is going to be talking with Mike and Melanie Waddell, who managed to return to Canada for their home assignment actually at the directive of both the Filipino and the Canadian government who asked them to come back to Canada. I'm really looking forward to having the Waddells on CBM Calling tomorrow. Julie, can I give you a little tiny mission?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. It's not going to be hard work. It's the kind of
Okay.
work I think you'll embrace. Can you pass along the gratitude of all of our CBM family to your team?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't even got to work in the same building as people who report to you, to
No.
Patricia and Eugene. You've got a great team at CBM. They
Yeah.
work very faithfully and hard to keep our partners moving ahead with their plans, and everything is a little different right now, but your team is doing a great job, and I commend you and your team, and thank you both. So can I just ask you to pass along our greetings to them?
Absolutely.
Who knows, maybe they're watching us, in which case they just, you're off the hook. I just said it.
I'll double pass it on.
You'll double pass it on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Julia.
Thank
Julia, God be with you during these very demanding circumstances. Again, friends, thank you for having joined us on CBM Calling, and I look forward to seeing you specifically on Sunday afternoon, but also tomorrow if you're able to join us. Thank you, and God bless.